Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. Today, Hannah and I are going to talk a bit about Syrvivor Syracuse Season 2, Episode 9. And it was definitely an interesting one for me to watch back. A lot of people were talking about me.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to hear some of their perspectives on how they feel about me or don't feel about me or what they're not sure about. Just the wide variety of things. I guess before we deep dive into it, Hannah, I guess, what were your general thoughts before we go a little bit more in depth?
Of the episode,
Yeah.
um, it was funny. Funny. I think the whole episode is this big plot, and everyone thinks that they've got it figured out, or at least the remaining Maroon 5. And so it's so funny when they're like, "Oh, we did not flip them." And they really thought that they had it all going for them. And they have an advantage that would have theoretically won them this vote if they would have shut their mouths and just voted one way and even used the extra vote. They didn't need you or Addie. But even then, an idol still fumbled their plans because splitting the votes is to prevent what happened from happening, but it
Correct.
happened anyway, which was so funny. It's just a testament. You have to, and I didn't get this either. You have to be so careful with who you tell things and who you tell about the plan. And I think someone in their alliance that really understood that was Jack. And now that he's left, right, everyone is kind of they're finding their way. But I liked that people were like, okay, now that Jack's gone, we have to start playing. We have to play for ourselves. It was cute. It was a little cute to see people be like, oh, I'm gonna go make a final two with Sean. Ooh, we're gonna vote Sean the snake. Right. It was a neat episode. It had a lot of things going on. And
Yeah.
there was more charts. So that was cute.
Yeah, I realized, oh wait, it's not not only it's not just Summer who's doing it, Mike's doing it, I'm doing it, Addie's doing it. They didn't show some of the footage, but actually there was a 20-minute vlog that Mike, me, and Addie filmed while we were FaceTiming of the scenarios of how it could work, of how the vote would go.
That's
So we were
funny.
really analytically thinking about this vote and how it would play out. But none of that was really shown. It was just kind of shown a
Well,
different
I think
sort of.
by showing Mike's, you kind of got the idea that oh, people are literally etching out every single scenario. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I
but
even texted Mike that night though, and he said it didn't even come out as clear as he would have hoped. And that I think that our video actually kind of made it clearer. So it was really just how the edit played out was very interesting to, I think, a lot of people on the cast who were watching that night, because I think they either might have not remember what they said, or the things that were edited, it wasn't either in the right order, or just there's something things as a person who knew what was going on, some things seemed out of place. But it's very interesting to see how it was put together, if that makes sense.
yeah, and it was nice because I don't know if other viewers could tell, interpret it this way, but I could tell that just by the car vlog, seeing you, Addie, and Mike together looking for the idol. I could tell, okay, that's a tight knit group. Things are
Right.
happening, groups are forming. That's probably the way that they're gonna vote. And
Hmm.
even though Addie and Mike were like, she's sus, it was still like, okay, what is Geneva's best move here?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, which
Yeah.
I guess we'll see in the long term what your
Yeah.
best move would have been, but we know what you did. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So
guess those
yeah,
are my thoughts, and we can dive a little deeper.
absolutely.
But yeah, the top of the episode starts out with summer, right?
Yeah, I believe so. It was basically there were a couple vlogs. It was basically Summer, Andrew, and myself. We kind of talked about the results of what happened. So Summer was a little confused about the vote. She was happy that Jack is gone, but it did not happen on her terms, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was
But
the cutest thing to see her like go like, wait a minute, like I know Geneva voted Austin, but like, did she? She didn't. No way. Like she would like her trying to like figure it out, and you're just sitting in the back, and like the audience is like, ha ha ha.
I actually kind of found it cute though. She's like, well, I guess in a way that I can say I kind of took part in that, but
Right, that's the
still
thing
it
about
was
Survivor is that if the cast buys it, it doesn't really matter if it's true or not,
yeah,
because if you get to the end and you pitch it well enough and they vote for you, that's all that matters. It doesn't, right?
yeah. And I think at the end of the day, I think Summer essentially gave me the confirmation I needed to carry out my theory. But I think the reason I felt confident going to tribal and telling not Austin, I didn't tell Austin because I didn't want to have paranoia, but I told Addie, Mike, and Derek, this is my theory. It has to be Austin, biggest threat. It's what makes the most logical sense. Derek would most likely play an idol on Mike. So it's like, and if Addie and I are supposedly working with the girls, then who else would be targeted? So it had to be Austin. If you
Yeah.
look at the sides and what makes the most sense, and he was
Why
playing both
why
sides.
wasn't it Derek this week?
So it wasn't Derek because Derek has a double idol. So they knew that Derek
Oh,
they knew
oh,
Derek would play.
oh yeah,
Even though they
yeah,
didn't know like the how the idol worked, they knew that either one half or one idol would be played on Derek. So they knew that Derek could not be the target. And they thought most likely Mike would be the other person it's played on, which is why they had to target somebody else.
yeah. I remember last week. I was thinking more this week of
Oh,
like,
well, this week it's because he wins immunity in the Dizzy bat, which
yeah,
we'll talk a little bit about. But yeah, basically, Summer, she's confused but also happy. She called, Jack a bully, and felt like the way that he was playing the game was a way that
Summer
something she
called
wasn't
Jack
aligning with.
bully. That's funny, considering the shit she said about me. Okay, go on.
We'll get there. And then Andrew, this is a very tough for him. 2 tribals in a row. He lost Eli. He lost Jack. Those were his guys. He had a
Bro,
thing with them from the beginning. So it's just really awful. So he's like, well, I guess it's time for me to play the game, make some moves. And this is my revenge tour. Like, I'm excited to play this game a bit more. I have a group of 5 though, even though it's not the original 5. Which includes like Erica and Sean in that. So he's excited about it. And so we do see that Dizzy Bat relay race. There were 3 heats of it. Basically, you had 7 spins, and then you had to run with a ball to the end, throw it in, and then we had like a little small ball that we had to actually like sink it in, and the first person of the 3 in a heat to sink it in would advance to the final heat. So because I poisoned Addie 2 episodes prior, and this was the first immunity challenge after I poisoned her, she was not eligible to compete, which is why we saw 9 people compete instead of 10. So in the first heat, it was Erica, Derek, and Summer, and Derek won. And the second heat, it was Mike, Andrew, and me. But also, this was chosen by random selection of who went. It wasn't like, oh, I got to choose. It was just that's who I was put against. Mike won. And then the third heat was Sean, Abby, and Austin. Austin fell really hard. Like when he spun, it was like, woo. And then Sean won that one. And then it was basically Sean, Mike, and Derek going against each other, and Derek won immunity. So yeah, that is exactly why Derek was not a consideration this week, because Derek won. So yeah,
right.
so he's automatically headed to final 9. Now the one thing that's happening in the merge, in terms of the idol clue situation, is that the person who wins individual immunity basically gets to will an idol clue to somebody else. So they cannot take it for themselves. So we did see, which obviously makes sense, Derek willed it to his buddy Mike. And
Yeah, which I
basically we're
feel like,
told that
well, I
tribals
think
in
like,
2 days.
willing it to your buddy is like obvious, but also At this point, I wonder if they are like, oh, do we want to be perceived as a duo? Like we're getting to the end, right? This is setting up the merge. So the last thing you want is to, I mean, be perceived as that duo going to the end and get
Mhm.
targeted for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I guess it didn't bother Derek because he was like, well, if I have to pick somebody, I'm going to pick Mike. I think at this point, it's like he's starting to trust me at this point. And then when it comes to, I guess maybe, Mike and Derek are closer than him and Addie, which I think maybe choosing Addie might have been a better choice for him to get that target off his back potentially. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty with Austin where he is in the game. Like, even though he's with us, I can see where that uncertainty would be. But yeah, we have basically about 2 days until the next tribal council. It's on a Tuesday night. So the thing is, before I kind of go into some of the other things that happen, I do want to like take like a side story in the narrative and basically say that Austin was unable to come with the group to go idol hunting. So what ended up happening was Mike got the idol clue, and then me, Addie, Mike, and Derek actually went idol hunting, actually in like two different locations. And we see later in the episode, and I'll just basically reference it now, is that we were basically where I found my 24-hour idol was across the street from where this idol was, which was quite interesting. So we had a clue that involved some sort of, I guess, like steps, some sort of area. So we were looking by these steps, like near this parking garage. We had looked everywhere around it. People were about to give up, and I was like, wait, no, maybe let's go back up the stairs. And so Mike and I went back up the stairs, and there is the idol just sitting in the corner, just chilling. And I just run up to it, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So
And
I'm
then
sorry, Hannah, I stole your title as the idol queen this
you
season.
didn't steal it, honey. You earned it. It's okay. It's okay.
But yeah,
But
one thing I do want to mention was Luke actually made an interesting, I think, stat point, which I don't think I knew about really until this episode. Luke is the host of Survivor Syracuse, in case for those who don't know. But I think between me and Erica alone, we probably have the most like advantages and idols ever had by women in college Survivor. And so like that's pretty awesome to know that I've had some sort of accomplishment that I didn't even know I had. Because at this point, I found two idols and I had a snake advantage, and Erica found an idol, had a snake advantage, and then Jack gave her another idol. So like
she had an idol, a snake advantage, another snake advantage, and then was given an idol.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I don't know. So oh yeah, she had the two
She had
tribe related snake advantages.
Yeah.
So yeah,
a lot. Yeah.
So just lots of advantages, either whether we got them, found them, or willed them, whatever. So it's quite interesting. So yeah, so we find that out. Now, the other thing that happened at Tribal Council is, in addition to voting somebody out, we also had to vote for somebody to be the snake this week. So we actually see this footage of Luke in his car reading the votes. So people that I was working with, we said that we were going to vote for Derek. And then it seemed like the other group was like going to vote for Sean. We did see a vote for me, and that was from Derek, because obviously Derek couldn't vote for himself. So that's where that extra vote essentially lied. And some of the confessionals we see at the end of the whole challenge situation was, Abby mentioned like that other group has had two really good moves in the last 2 weeks, and they think they have an up on us, but they really don't. Referring to Eli going home and Jack going home. And, she still has her cancel vote advantage, so she's excited to use that in the future. Initially, Abby actually had the plan to use it on Jack, but because my group sent home Jack this previous tribal, she couldn't use it for that. But in order to stay in the numbers and in the majority, she knew that she'd be able to use it moving forward potentially if she needed to. And then with Sean, he is feeling a little conflicted in terms of how his luck is turning out in this game versus his first season. His first season, he was a comp beast, winning all these challenges, and he didn't successfully win this immunity here. Even Luke, our host, was shocked that Derek won because Derek is not necessarily an athlete, and we had a couple athletes or super physically fit people who were on our season. So I think he was even shocked that Derek won. I think Derek was even shocked that he won. So a lot of unexpected things are definitely happening. And yeah, so there's just a lot of talk and excitement about the unexpected that's been going on. So Sean does receive the snake advantage because he did get the most votes of the 11 votes that were given. And essentially, he can use or share this information however he wants. Basically, it's called snake stealth. It gives him amazing knowledge into the next challenge. And you can essentially, in the next challenge, people are going to be able to come up and pay for items for an auction. And essentially, whenever Sean decides to, take part in the auction and buy something, he can basically reach under the table, and under the table, there will be a hidden immunity idol. But he would have to do it in front of everybody.
Which is exactly what happened in his season.
Yeah, and he was the one, I think, that actually did it too. So, but at this point, we had not seen the footage that far into his season, so we didn't know he did that yet.
Right.
Yeah, so we didn't know.
We still haven't seen what he does, but it sounds like it's going to be like that, because he made it pretty clear that he was going to go for it. So I'm interested to see if he'll have the same luck he had in his prior season, because it looks like he's not having it, but who knows?
Yeah, I think in this episode, I'm kind of like, Sean could have been on the right side of this vote, but he just chose not to be.
Sean could have been playing from day one, but he was dropped in like a stork drops in a little baby, and he wonders why he doesn't know what's going on. That's because
also, I'm going to preface that I tried to communicate with Sean that week, and then he barely communicated with me.
Well, I tried to communicate with Sean while I was in the game, and he did not really.
Yeah, I don't know.
Available.
So I tried to play the game, socialize with him, get to know him, probably try to work with him, but he wasn't really budging at this point of the game. We'll see if things change moving forward. But, he talks about how his side coordinated that he would get it, and he'll eventually share the information with everybody in his alliance. And but he's gonna bid on the first thing that he can bid on and go up and grab it. And he'd rather have an idol and have everybody know about it than not have an idol at all. So,
yeah, I think it just puts him in a tricky position, because he can literally, yeah.
But the one general caveat with this whole snake advantage, similar to the previous ones, is that Sean has to survive this tribal council in order to, have a chance to.
Oh, so Amber's like, hi guys.
Right.
I'm Snake.
So we see a lot of Andrew lying this episode, telling everybody he's the snake to divert from Sean, which in a sense, sure, that's a good idea. But also, like, do you want people to think you're the snake so then they vote you out? That's a question that I would personally have in that sort of situation, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Right, because what happens now in Merge if you vote him out?
Well, basically, if we vote him out, we do get some sort of challenge advantage. Yeah. So even though they're individual immunities, we would still get some sort of advantage. But so that's why, we did think about it.
What should have happened is that everyone went, let's all just vote out Sean. He's the snake. And then because then the girls, right? You would have been more susceptible to work with the girls if everyone just banded together for 1 week.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would have been so funny. That
But
would
there
have
are some behind the scenes reasons where certain things happen, which we'll talk about, because honestly, this edit really did not fully clearly have people understand what I was doing, I think, from a strategic standpoint. And in addition, why I went the way I did. But we'll definitely get there. But I do want to talk about Summer. So she got back from tribal. Again, Jack went home and Derek won immunity. So you could say this is just not what she was expecting. She doesn't know what to do. She knows that Geneva, so me, that I voted out Austin, but she does not know how the others knew that the vote was Austin. Um, she also said that Derek basically said it was a lucky guess. So she's like, well, I guess if it's a lucky guess, then I guess good. But Summer also says that she was being nice to me to tell me the vote. And she didn't need to let me know it, which is true. She didn't need to let me know it. But either way, I think the vote would have gone the way it did, and the idol would have been played correctly, even if Summer didn't tell me, because I had the theory about Austin to begin with. So it wouldn't have
it's
mattered.
funny. It's like I was so nice to her. I told her to vote a certain way. I did that for her. Having put you on the bottom where you were.
I mean, if you think about it, the reason I was on the bottom of Maroon 9 initially was because of Summer and Abby. They blindsided me in a vote. And then it's all about, at the merge, it's about me having to prove my trust to them when they were the ones who betrayed me. So it's just a lot of confusion, to be honest, at this point, because at the end of the day, I didn't do anything to them. They just didn't tell me things. They left me out of votes. They didn't give me information. So at this point, if you want to work with me, you got to show me that you really want to work with me. And you also need to be, nice and positive about it. And I will get to why that was not experienced, and why I voted the way I voted at tribal. But basically, yeah, we know that I found the idol. So idol number 2. I basically say that they're probably going to go after Mike potentially, because Mike, he did vote out Eli. And he is a big threat in this game. And I was like, well, I'm not sure where Summer and I stand. And to give some little backstory, I actually met up with Summer a little bit after the challenge and stuff. And I showed her the text messages I sent to Addie, Derek, and Mike about my theory about Austin, to show her that I had this theory prior to tribal. So, aside from the whole finger number thing, I knew that it had to be Austin. So I showed that to Summer to tell her, like, this is why the vote went this way. And that was my way to cover my bases, instead of it just looking like, oh, I just told them, And that's also why I did the finger thing, because I did not want to be caught verbally at tribal saying, oh, the vote's Austin.
Right, but you still in a sense gave them the information they needed.
Yeah. And that's fine, but I also told them before Summer told me. So either way, they probably would have gone along with it at that point. Because obviously we were in a difficult situation. So we were going to have to guess who the idol should be played on anyway. And those hints of the biggest threat on your side kind of got even Addie and Derek to even think, like, it can't be Mike. That wouldn't make sense. So,
yeah.
Um, so that happened. And we'll probably need the idol on Tuesday, but not really sure what's going to happen. Now, we actually see this whole confessional from Mike, which actually was about 30 minutes long, but they cut it, for the sake of time. We actually do see a lot of Mike's hats, and apparently in this vlog, he actually tried on multiple hats, but he ended up wearing the Syracuse one in the
vlog.
Yes. So he talks about actually how he regrets voting Jack out. And he's worried because he realized that Jack could have been a shield for him, and there was no way Jack was going to come for him this week because he would have been the too obvious vote. And then he could have potentially worked with Abby and Summer to vote out Jack now. So, and then Abby has a steal advantage of, canceling that vote. So the only trouble with this tribal council is that we have to play the idol correctly. So it's basically blind luck if we can manage to survive this tribal. And basically, he feels that with the first merge tribal, we should have targeted Erica or Andrew because they would have been unexpected. And he actually feels weary about Andrew. He mentions that he feels like Andrew is being underestimated, even though Andrew says he's never watched an episode of Survivor before. He just feels like there's more to Andrew.
This vlog from Mike is funny because he goes, everyone has just thought he's stupid up until this point, and I don't understand why. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just a little funny. I'm just like,
no, it was funny because I believed Andrew when Andrew said he'd never watched Survivor before. I figured that Luke was probably going to cast a person or two who probably didn't know much about it, but was still intrigued.
You could have never watched Survivor and still play the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Andrew is the kind of player that didn't talk to people on the cast.
Yeah, and I think Andrew even mentions, I think either in this, I think it was in this episode, potentially maybe in something else that I'll get to later, that he was playing a little bit more for his alliance rather than himself. So he wasn't really thinking about what was best for his game individually, but he was thinking more about what was best for a group in a collective, which I think he basically said that if he were to play in a future season beyond season 2, that's where he would probably change up his strategy and play more for himself.
That's neat.
Yeah, and even Andrew mentions he feels like people looked at him as the weakest between him, Eli, and Jack, and he wants to make moves this week, and he wants to go on a revenge tour. He hasn't made a lot of moves for himself. He's just contributed to his alliance. He needs to do a little bit more. Sean is his new final 2. Sean knows how the game is played, having played once before.
He's like, Sean is the expert. Sean knows how the game is played. And I'm like, this guy Andrew thinks that Sean, I don't know. It's just cute because
I guess let's just give Sean credit. Sean in his first season was actually more social than he was on our season. And he did make it pretty far.
Because I think he also had a showman, so he had he was invested into that season. But
yeah,
I'm gonna bring up just because you win challenges and make it really, really far, I don't think that makes you the best strategist in the game.
No, it doesn't. But this is the thing. We also don't know how Sean realistically performed because the season hadn't fully aired on YouTube yet. So
Correct. So this is just Andrew assuming he's oh, Sean is Sean knows stuff without having seen the whole. Okay.
Exactly. So that was definitely interesting. Then there was a lot of talk Andrew had about how he was talking about how Derek messaged him about being the snake, and how Andrew started telling people that he was the snake, and how he plans to meet up with Austin and try to do some sort of information exchange to find out where our idol is, because they knew that Mike got the idol clue. So it was just all of this stuff that I was like, I don't know, this seems a little like he's just doing a bit too much. I think Andrew, all he needs to do is lay low, and he would have probably, I think, been fine this week. But I think you're drawing a little bit too much attention to yourself if you're telling everybody that you're the snake. So,
yeah.
I
mean, big risk, big reward. It's kind of that thing where it's you can say, oh, don't vote out this person or this person, but then they vote you out. Right. Yeah. So the more time you spend protecting other people, the less time you're spending protecting yourself. So it's always it always has to be me first. Right. And that's this week. It sounds like it's the first week that he's actually oh, but what about me? What about my game? What about me? Where do forget my alliance. Right. And that's Like, you have to start thinking that way from day one. You
Yeah.
can't feel that you're thinking that way from day one, but you have to start thinking that way.
Dead. We're
to
probably at
retire.
like
Um,
day almost 50, I think, at this point. Something
yeah,
like that.
and then
Day 40 is when we started the merge. So, yeah, we're like day 49, 48, something like that, I think, at this point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, Andrew. So Andrew is telling everyone he's a snake, and then we have after that
Austin. So,
Austin.
Austin talks about, well, Geneva found the idol, but I think she's the worst person to have found the idol in the group because she wrote my name down. And I'm like, boy, don't you remember that I did this strategically? Like, it wasn't like me intentionally writing your name down to vote you out. We were
Yeah,
playing the idol on you.
I think it's funny. Like, yeah, I don't like. Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny
maybe
because
he
I actually
saw that
messaged
as like,
Austin about this. I was like, Austin, really? And
maybe he saw that
he's like,
as in like, oh, like you'd risk it, like you'd still write my name,
yeah,
like you'd risk writing my name down. But the fact that you took so much time to vlog and so much time to communicate with them your strategy, I think says a lot about your loyalty. But that's so funny. He's like, worst person to get it.
and I'm like, if it wasn't for me, he would have gone home.
Right. And then you proceed to gift it to someone.
Exactly. Look
You're
at
like,
how nice I am. I am a team player in this game, and we see that. And then people still question me, and I'm just like, I don't get y'all. But you know what? It's funny. But yeah, he talks about he doesn't really know where I stand and how he spoke to Sean and Andrew, that whole weird discussion about snakes and idols. Yeah. And Derek has no idea what's going on. This is my favorite part.
never knows what's going on.
True. This is
Like
the my
everybody, he's like,
favorite part. Yes, and it's great. It's great vlog content. I love it. Now, this is my favorite part of the episode, and it wasn't just like it wasn't my first time hearing about this because I actually heard about this while we were playing in the season. Mike texted Erica about the vote for information, and Erica literally goes, "What's it to you?" And so I'm like, well, I guess this freshman three is dead. It's not a solid alliance anymore. She's literally like, what's it to you? Um, and Derek just feels like we're in a bad position because Abby has her cancel a vote advantage. And he says that there's supposedly a plan, but he'll get explained this plan later. So Andrew gets off FaceTime with Summer and Abby. And he has something with them, but that conflicts with his final two with Sean. And Summer had this plan, so they're going to convince Addie or Geneva to flip with us to split the vote to be Austin or Mike. And he really loves this plan. He calls it balls to the wall. We need to stop the momentum of the other tribe. There's clearly a divide. The other group has had two successful tribals. We need to break up Austin, Mike, and he, I think, was confused for a bit and then said Derek. And he doesn't want to work with Austin anymore. He thinks we could get Addie because she's been wanting to work with Abby for a while. I'll reach out to her myself. Maybe say if you can get us idol information before Tuesday, I won't vote you out this week, but then I'll blindside her in a week or two.
that's so funny. It's like, if you do this, I won't vote you out.
And I'm just like,
It's
okay.
Okay.
He's like, we know we can convince Geneva to flip, but we're still testing the waters. And he's talking about the final three that Summer, Abby wanted to start with me. And basically, he feels like really the only reason I'm with them is because it was kind of by default, which honestly, in a sense, is true. I just kind of ended up on their side and everyone perceived I was on their side. So he doesn't feel like it would take too much for me to flip. And in a sense, I think Andrew's assessment is decently fair. But I do think that some circumstances did happen, which actually resulted in me not wanting to pursue this plan.
Oh,
So,
what was it?
well, so Abby, Summer, Addie, and myself met together, and we talked about forming a Final Four. And they basically said, we're going to tell you who to vote for. We're basically splitting votes. We can't tell you who is voting for who because the others don't trust you yet. But we both want you to vote out Mike. Right? And so I was like, okay. Now the thing is, honestly, I think if they really wanted this plan to work, I think it would have been better strategically if they told one of us to vote Mike and the other one to vote Austin. And the reason I say this is because I'll talk about the math specifically here, where if you look at the votes and who can vote, so let's say that let's say me and Addie are supposed to vote Mike. And then at minimum, they're going to have one other person to vote with us, to vote out Mike, right?
Right.
And then they'll have 4 votes on Austin. So if I leave and if Addie leaves, then that means there's 1 vote on Mike. Max. But now, let's say it's 4 votes on Mike and 3 on Austin. If you remove me and Addie, that's 2 votes. So if Austin, Mike, and Derek vote somebody, they'll go home automatically because 3 votes is more than 2. And if we play an idol correctly on the other person,
yeah,
so it's kind of it's very complex.
I don't know if we've gotten to the Erica vlog yet, but Erica basically, she looks like the smartest person in this episode. I swear to God, which is really ironic considering her gameplay so far. But I think it's because at this point she's spending a lot of time with Jack. And so like literally she's like, why are we doing anything? We have the votes. Why don't we just vote so and so? But they want you and Addie, and I feel like that's their greatest flaw because you two know that you're not going to get the votes. So you can literally calculate. You literally already know it's going to be Mike or Austin. So it's just a matter of who's going to have more votes and who do we play the idol for? And you do it. I mean, like it's so silly. It's so
the reason that essentially me and Addie decide not to vote with the group is because Summer and essentially Abby, but mostly Summer, gave me an ultimatum that if I did not vote with them, I would automatically lose 6 jury votes.
Ooh.
And for me, I'm not all about ultimatums and people telling me what I should or shouldn't do, forcing me to do things rather than that doesn't seem like he wants to work with me.
What are we at final 10? What are we at final 10? They're threatening jury votes at final 10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and so Addie didn't really like that. She was all about the girl thing and really wanted to work with them. But ultimately, she's like, I already trust this other group of people, and they're not threatening me. They're not threatening you. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go vote with the boys, right? And the one good thing about Addie going to vote with them is that that's 4 votes, right? So even if Abby cancels one of their votes, 3 is still the majority if an idol is played correctly. Now, so Addie joins them to have 4 votes, right? Now, for me, I didn't want it to be super, super obvious, with the vote. I actually kind of wanted to vote with the girls in a sense, but I really kind of wish they told me or gave me an option of who to vote for. But ultimately, I decide strategically I'm going to vote out Austin because if I jump to vote out Austin, that means that Austin will have more votes on him than Mike automatically. So at this point, then Mike could only have 1 or 2 votes if we don't know who has the votes, right? So then Austin could have 4 or 5 by me jumping onto Austin. So if somebody plays an idol on Austin, all his votes will be canceled. Mike only has 1 to 2, which means that whoever my side sends home with 3 or 4 votes, they will go home. And so that is why I strategically wanted to do that to ensure that even if a vote was canceled and stolen, that this plan would work. And that is why we did it the way we did it. Because at first it was like, they're like, well, why don't you just vote with us? And I'm like, no. I got to make sure that we have the numbers because that's the tricky thing of us not knowing who is voting who.
It blows. I mean, you can see that you can play, like smart people in this game can play the smartest games and get like, oh, they're sus for it. like you are literally doing the math, trying to make sure that they don't have enough votes on whoever, and they have a problem with it
Yep.
because they don't.
So yeah, so Abby's super excited about Tribal. She's like, I'm not going to use my cancel a vote. She kept telling me and
Mirror
Addie to
woke
let
up.
her know. She kept telling us to let her know, like, oh, should I bring it? But like, I don't think I need to bring it because I'm confident you guys are going to vote with us. And I kept telling Abby to bring it. I kept telling Abby to bring it, but she still didn't. She still didn't bring it. Because I was actually thinking maybe she might waste it. That could be a potential. Um, but we see that she doesn't use it. She thinks that Mike, Derek, and Austin are going to be shocked and see that she doesn't use it. Now the crucial thing about this vote is I didn't want to be super super exposed, so I willed my idol to Mike. And so as you saw, we were wearing our hoodies in the rain. I met up with Mike. I gave him the idol. I was like, Mike, I want to establish trust with you. Like, play it on Austin. But if for some reason you feel like something's going to go haywire, you can play it on yourself. But I think, this is what we need to do. This is the way that we sure. And
Isn't
he's
that
like,
so that like that's a great friendship move? Is like, I'm gonna give you an idol. Happy birthday. I love you. Like that, like that's how I want alliances to form, is like someone coming to me and being like, you want an idol? Let's be friends.
yeah. And then Mike, I don't know what happened, but he got super, super paranoid and was just like, Geneva is so sketchy. Like, I can't trust her. I need to come for her now. I spoke to Addie, and Addie said that she's talking to Jack, and now I just don't know if, like, what's going on. And then all this sort of stuff. And
Are
then
you
Addie,
allowed to talk to? Are you allowed to talk to jury members?
I don't know if there was like a rule for or against it at the time, but like at the end of the day, like Jack and I were friends, so we just talked and he just kind of wanted to know what was happening. Um and
Okay.
so yeah, so like I just filled him in, but Jack really did not have any influence on my game at all. I
No,
just
no, yeah.
yeah, he just was living vicariously through me by listening to me talk about the game. But I think that really bothered both of them. I felt like it was like a ghost that was haunting them. Um, but yeah, Addie talks about how she didn't know who she was going to vote for. She's so lost and confused after her talk with Abby, Summer, and Geneva. They believe that that we're going to vote with them. And then the others don't believe us. The others in that other alliance, all they gave us is the person to vote for, and that was Mike. They wouldn't tell us anything else. But then Addie makes a good point. Why would I work with you if you can't ensure me that like we have trust? And tell me what I
Or like
need to know.
show me that you trust me and give me all the information. But also baby steps.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
I understand and I appreciate that those two were transparent and they're like the others don't trust you. But, and I wanted to, honestly, I genuinely wanted to work with Abby and Summer. I really did. But I felt completely disrespected being told that I'm losing jury votes if I don't vote with them. And so that's like, I just felt like that was me being forced to vote one way or another. And I just wasn't about
Yeah.
that.
Like that's
So
not allyship. That's them trying to control you.
exactly. And that's the thing that like, I've even noticed with my edit and like not only like not me personally, but when other people talk about me, it's just like people are like, "Oh, well, she's just kind of like there," or like, like I could bring her to the end and like beat her. And I'm like, "Y'all don't really know what I'm doing, do you?" Like I am playing this game more strategically than half of y'all. So,
Yeah.
but that's good. I'm glad that I do not appear to be a threat. That's good for my game. I mean,
Uh
how many
until
tribals have I gone to? 7 tribal councils, and I have not been a target. That's iconic.
yeah.
Yeah. So Mike, Addie, super paranoid, not sure. Like Addie was like, she keeps saying that she wants to vote with them. I don't understand why she wants to vote with them. But like for me, I was at the point where I'm like, guys, if we can get information from the other side, why don't we like try to go do that? Like, I don't understand. Like, sure, it's like weird where it's like, yeah, they may not care about me, but if they trust me a little bit, then like I can find out how the vote's going and we can manipulate it to work in our favor. We're in the minority. We don't have the numbers.
Yeah, you have to know who they're voting for to play the idol correctly.
That's why I'm playing this weird game, because I was in a difficult dilemma. There were people that I wanted to work with this whole game that really wanted to work with me now. Then, some people are like, I don't know, like I have to prove myself to everybody. And you know what? I'm like, I'm tired of having to prove myself to people. I've shown that I am loyal to people in this game when they are loyal to me. If you look at the whole pre-merge, I was loyal to Mitch that entire time. I was loyal to you, Hannah, even though we didn't get that much time together. I was loyal to Nasan. I was loyal,
Well, it's
to
also
who I could be loyal.
people who are in the bottom. Like, they don't have the power to be anything but loyal. Because that's how you get your way up. Those with loyalty, like those on the top, can do whatever they want because for now they're just right. People on the bottom have to work their way back up the food chain, like have to beg and borrow and like do and appease people that like don't have their best interest in mind, who have been like rude to them. It's like, so just to, yeah, I don't think at this point, I don't think you have the votes to do anything but what you're saying you're going to do when it comes to your own alliance.
Yeah, you got to get creative when you don't have the numbers. And that's what I've been doing. If you've noticed this game, I haven't had I maybe had the numbers once
Yeah.
or twice, but in those times there was an idol. So like I never had the numbers really. Maybe there was once or twice pre-merge, like it's like with Daisy, it's like I didn't want to have to come for Daisy, but it was between Daisy and Mitch, my two closest allies, but if I wanted to survive, I had to vote one of them. But like even at the end of the day, I didn't even technically vote out Daisy. Like so, I showed my love even when I could have voted out Mitch in the 3-person tribal. And I knew I very well could have because I felt that Erica had an idol in my gut. I was like, I'm staying loyal to Mitch to the end. I don't care. If I
Yeah.
go, then I go. Because that's who I am. But the thing is, it's people are expecting loyalty from me when they have not shown me that loyalty and have betrayed me. And that is, I think, what is the double standard in this game. And it's kind of disrespect, like to expect all this
Well,
from
it's getting them,
and you're not giving me anything.
it's getting their friends voted out.
Yeah. And like Andrew was on his revenge tour, I'm on mine. So, and we actually do see that at this tribal council because of what transpired with, the women and the other people in this game. But before I get to that, I know that you brought up Erica, so I do want to mention a couple things that Erica did say. So she had so many thoughts from that first transitional tribal to now. She's really frustrated with how her alliance was handling the vote. She's just like, why are people telling people the plan? If I had my way, we would have voted out Addie or Geneva. Maybe even Addie, especially because they wouldn't play an idol on Geneva or Addie. But I'm also like, I'm the one who's finding the idols.
I actually think that the smarter thing for them to have done would be to go back to an Austin, go back like and say, we're voting Geneva. Vote with us. Right? Because they just need to turn you guys against each other. I think what Summer and Abby are underestimating is how, like, I don't know, they're just underestimating you and Addie completely. And that's where they go wrong this episode, is that they completely assume that they have you, that all is good, everything's fine. Of course they'd work with us, right? When in reality, their social game is not there.
social game, that is very important. Jury management is very key. Telling people that they're losing jury votes because they're playing the game seems a little weird. I would understand maybe if I had done something personal to them, but I am not. I'm not doing
Oh, and
anything personal.
even if Summer or whoever believes these things, when you're trying to get someone to vote your way,
Yeah.
you don't say it.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you don't threaten the people you're trying to get to vote with you. You say, "Oh my God, Geneva, I look up to you so much. I've always wanted to work with you. And I really think that this is best for both of our games."
Yeah.
Like they're not, I think they're all thinking that like they're the next Jack. They're like, "Oh, like I can be the mafia boss. I can intimidate people to get what I want." And that's not, no.
They were so
No.
excited about this vote. So excited about this vote.
They
So
were in the
excited
vlog,
about this vote.
except for
It was not
Eric.
even shown in these vlogs how excited they were about this vote. But then I was like, you know what? Y'all are gonna hate me. But I gotta play the game. I can't I'm still gonna be at the bottom of another alliance if I join y'all. In a sense, I did want to vote Mike, not really vote out Mike, but just vote to show that I was loyal to what they told me, so that in the next tribal, I could get the game information I need. That side would trust me, but I could still make a move on them. And that's really what I wanted to do. But then I was getting a lot of pressure from Addie and Mike, and like they just felt really uncomfortable with that. And I'm just like, I get the you guys are a little too paranoid right now. Like I'm really doing like y'all need to trust me a bit more when you guys don't have the numbers. Like I get that there's
Okay,
hesitancy. I literally just saved Austin. Like I literally said
yeah.
I'm going to go vote with them,
And it's funny because you literally give Mike your idol.
but he still doesn't trust me, which is
And
confusing.
he
I
has a
gave
problem
him
with you writing his name down, which I understand. Like, you never want your name to be written down for any circumstance, just cause. But like, I think this game is getting very intellectual. It's getting very numbersy. It's getting very contingent upon. It's like the past couple of rounds. It's been okay. Is there an idol? Who is it being played on? Like, so that information, like that double agent, means everything. That's how you get on the top of the numbers. You're on the bottom of the numbers. Like, I don't think Mike and Addie can be mad at you right now when you're the only one digging them out of their right
right.
their
And
trench.
that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get us in the numbers cuz we were not. Um but this tribal ends up super crazy. We actually see that because I voted Austin, there were actually 5 votes on Austin. Because Addie and myself left voting Mike, that meant that there was 1 vote on Mike. And then that meant that the remaining votes from Derek, Austin, Addie, and Mike were on Andrew. So Andrew was sent home. In essence, really, I feel because he kept saying he was the snake. It was interesting because 10 minutes before tribal, we were literally all back and forth like, should it be Sean? Should it be Andrew? Should it be Sean? Should it be Andrew? Should it be Sean? Should it be Andrew? And then
Why
everyone's
not
like, okay,
Abby?
let's just do Andrew. Huh?
Why not Abby here? Because you guys knew about the steal, correct?
Yes. I don't know why not Abby. I think it was just because those were the 2 most likely considered the snake and they were going more for the snake, not necessarily
To
an
get that
advantage
advantage.
that
Well,
was
because
there.
if she didn't play the steal cancel vote, it could have been flushed. You know,
Yeah. And it very well could have been. But, that was not, I don't think that was really on the minds right at that moment. It was more, let us get rid of this advantage that isn't alive yet. And so
yeah,
that's kind of what the focus
which did not work.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah, because Sean survived this tribal, which means that he could, in the next upcoming challenge, the auction, get that idol. But we'll see what happens. It'll definitely be interesting to see how that goes about. I think it'll be pretty clear that neither Addie or myself voted for Mike. So at this point,
So who voted for Mike?
good, huh?
So
Who voted for Mike?
You voted
It
for
was
Austin,
either
right?
Abby or Summer, but I don't know who voted for Mike. Really, everyone else voted on that side. So like Sean, Andrew, Erica, they all voted for Austin.
Yes, and you did as well, right?
I voted for Austin. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yes,
by me doing that, we at least knew, okay, all the votes are there. So Mike was like, I'm playing the idol on Austin. All the votes are canceled. You see Austin super excited once again. And I'm like, this is funny. I keep voting Austin out, but it's really strategically. It's never intentionally. And so, yeah, it was a very interesting end of the episode. And now we have the final 9. And next week is probably going to be, I'm really intrigued to see those vlogs. I'm sure they're not great about me. Honestly, I think there's probably a lot of negative stuff about me. But you know what? That's part of the game, right? It's called Syrvivor Syracuse Snakes and Secrets. So I had to be a snake in some way, right?
Well, we have a lot of snakes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because they played like snakes, but just because they acted like snakes.
Well, for me, I just was the snake twice, right? So that was one of the main reasons I was a snake. But I'd say what I did was a little kind of sneaky. But you know what? It was fun. Like, it was fun. And if I'm already at the bottom, regardless of where I'm on the bottom, you know what? I gotta have some fun, right? So
yeah. Fun. Yeah, I'm excited for next week's episode. I'm excited to see this auction. Auctions are always fun. So fun.
And then the tribal. Who knows what that's gonna be? And then Abby still has her cancel vote. So will she use it?
And now Sean may get this idol.
Yeah, potentially. So they might have all the advantages. And also, in a preview in the next episode, we actually see a girl with a red backpack, aka me, idol hunting. What was that about? We'll find out.
Another idol?
Maybe. I don't know. We will see. We will definitely.
This season should be renamed Island of the Idols.
I mean, literally, right?
Campus of the Idols. Like, the Snakes and Secrets, not doing it for me. Campus of the Idols.
Campus of the Idols.
A lot of idols.
We got to rebrand the season.
I found none of them.
But you know what? We'll see if your legacy lives on. So, in the next episode.
Oh.
Teaser. Okay. Well.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to follow Syrvivor Syracuse. Syrvivor on Twitter. You got to follow on the IG, the Instagram. And you got to follow Hannah.
That's me.
Yeah, follow her. And then be sure to like, comment, and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content in the coming year. And this is probably the last video of 2020. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I don't know when we'll come with our next recap because of the new year, some complications. But we hope to get that to you at some point after that episode airs. And you can follow me at PeaceLoveJen on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely rest of your week and a happy new year. Bye, everybody.
Bye.